Warning: this story may contain profanity and language that may be offensive to some. Also, don't forget to show the author some love in the comments. Okay, then we begin. Purgatory is a hunting ground. Written by Matthew Laverty. You hear all the stories about the big two, heaven and hell. Either you're a sinner and are ready to go down to the fiery abyss to suffer, or you float to the clouds ready for eternal salvation. What if I told you that it's all a lie? There is one place I never want to end up again. One place where the souls who have something they left behind, those who are missing something, Purgatory. Yeah, I went there myself before I was brought back to life. Let me tell you now. Everything you have been told is all a lie. There is no salvation waiting for you, only pain, fear, and the void. Let me go back, so you can understand what horrors you will see, what's waiting for you when you go there. Depression is a hell of a thing. Being 23 and having nothing to live for, no job, no family, no friends. You can get the picture. I didn't see any end as a full bottle of sleeping pills rested beside me. Staring down at the eviction notice to the crappy one-bedroom apartment, the first pill slipped down my throat, followed by another and another until there was nothing left, and I looked down at an empty bottle. Laying down on the mattress, I called a bed. By now it had several dents where the springs poked into every nook of my back. I waited, begging to leave this world. That's when the pain came in. The intense pain sizzling into my stomach, wrenching in pain, my head ringing out as I became dizzy. The whole room spun until I was floating in this intense darkness. No sight or sound, just this endless void of black. Blink. I opened my eyes as I looked over an endless forest, trees shooting high into the sky. An eerie mist hung low against the trunks of the darkened trees. It was daytime as I could tell, but everything looked so grey. There was no colour there, as if all emotion and heat was sucked from this place. The ground felt hard, as if frozen in time. Not a sound nor signs of life, just endless rows of trees. The air was as stale as you would think, as if just stagnant. Nothing pushing or pulling it to flow. "Hello," I called out, but my voice sounded very echoey, as if I was talking in a deep cave, the noise bouncing off every tree trunk and ringing back to me in the silence. Not knowing what to do, I just started walking. As I did, not even my footsteps made a noise. It was just silent. After what felt like hours of walking, it had felt like I walked in an endless circle. My head started to spin as disorientation took over. Everything was spinning as I landed on my back with a deep thud. Blinking several times as I tried to steady myself and will myself further to get back up. I felt a soft wind brush against my face. To finally have some sense hit against me was like a breath of new life. Standing up full now, I could notice this brilliant glow in the distance. After walking for so long, it was the only thing I could use to pull myself from the nagging dizziness that took me as I pushed onwards at a quickened pace towards this inviting light. I made my way over. As I got closer to it, the light was almost blinding. A stark contrast to the grey that hung to every corner. A figure came into view, and the brilliant light dulled. Then there before me was a magnificent figure. His features were completely perfect against his tall frame. In fact, he towered before me, wearing what I could describe as golden armour. If I could compare it to anything, it would be like ancient Roman armour. Flowing from his back were two dove-like wings, neatly tucked in as they hugged against him, reaching down to the backs of his legs. They were white as snow. Long golden blonde hair flowed down past his features perfectly in every way. An angel? I began to question myself. Every religious book showing angels matched this being in front of me. He turned to look at me. His eyes glowed with holy fire. His presence was cold yet commanding. As he eyed me, it was like something clicked in his head. His face contorted into disgust, looking down at me like I was a cockroach ready to be stomped out of existence. Suicide. Blasphemer. The deep, cold voice boomed out over the forest. The tone behind it told me everything I needed to know about these creatures, this angel's intent. As he said this, he drew a large sword from his hip. The long polished blade rested in an ornate golden hilt. As he drew the sword, it ignited with flames. The heat was intense. My fight or flight response was ringing off in my head like crazy, willing me to get the hell away from that thing. I ran. By God, I turned, and I started to sprint from the malice taking form. Heavy breaths of terror and fatigue flowed from my mouth as my lungs burned just as much as the angel's sword. Blasphemer. The booming yell almost shook the entire forest as I cried out, my legs carrying me as if on autopilot. I felt a great whoosh of air rush past me, that feeling of hatred closing in behind me as I knew he was coming for me. The intense heat getting closer and closer, my legs giving out. I can't remember if it was fear or if I tripped on something, but I fell. As I did fall, I looked up to see several trees fall beside me. The angel in one swoop of his blade managed to cut down a dozen trees. That's when I laid eyes on the skies of this place. The sunlight exposed through the few open cracks that the fallen trees had given, but there was no heat. It was just this grey ball of light raining over this forest. But I had no time to really think about. From the clearing the angel left, I spotted it. The intense light speeding closer and closer towards me, the air giving off an intense pressure as it did, a booming roar of anger following in its wake. Move! I have to move! I could feel that instinct kick in, and I rolled. As the angel collided with the ground, it sent out a shockwave, as I could feel the flame of the sword burn the side of me facing it. The shockwave also sent me flying into a nearby tree as I collided with the thick trunk. Several parts of it splintered behind the force of me hitting it, as I cried out in pain, landing rather harshly with the cold ground, thankful as I didn't feel anything crack or break, though I could still feel the intense pain across my back. The air forced out of me in one harsh, rugged breath. Where the angel had landed was a large crater. As I blinked, the force of the attack had left my head spinning. A harsh ringing met my ears. The angel was already on his feet, staring me down, almost toying with me, like a lion ready to pounce on its prey. That deep voice ringing out over the forest once more as it spoke, the feeling of hatred and disgust behind every word. The sinner and blasphemer will meet their end. All of this is for nothing. You shall perish before me, and your soul shall be delivered to the Almighty. You are but an insect beneath his eternal gaze. The angel took one step towards me. The gravity of its presence in this dark place was crushing, as if the first itself rumbled in fear of his presence. But I wasn't waiting for my fate. The burn marks that covered the portion of my body were stinging reminder of what it would do to me without a second thought. With one pained and sluggish movement, I moved to the dense tree line. Behind me, I could hear what was almost a pained grunt from the angel. Moving to the trees, the hateful pressure lifted off from behind me. The intense heat moving upwards, the whooshing sound followed by the loudest flapping of wings was intense and terrifying all in one. I rounded several trees as I shakily limped my way from it, begging for it all to stop. For after all, the angels were supposed to be the good guys, right? I felt a hand reach out and grab me, pulling me into a makeshift hole in the ground, almost like a trapdoor spider would do to its prey. I let out a muffled yelp as a woman held her hand over my mouth and with the other she held a finger to her lips, willing me to keep quiet. From the top of the cave, I could hear several whooshing sounds as the angel passed back and forth several times. Each time it passed, I could feel it was more desperate to find me. Until finally we heard a large thud from above us, the intense pressure weighing down on us, keeping us still in the moment. The deep voice rang out again. The sinners hide like vermin, blasphemers, whores and heretics hide as if their fate will change. You will soon hear my rejoice as all of your souls are brought before him. A long horn noise bellowed out among the dark trees. The deep rumbling shook the whole forest. The cave we took shelter in let loose fragments of dirt that fell all around us, almost as if quaking in fear from the horn. The crushing pressure seemed to lift from the air around us, the silence rushing back to us as if it was in a full sprint. The silence didn't last too long as another rumbling happened all around us. I let out a whimper as I begged for that angel to stay away. Only it wasn't the intense pressure that came back or the whooshing of air. No, it was the groaning of trees, as if the forest was alive in itself. Pain struck me once more as I let out several grunts and moans in discomfort, nipping and stinging pain holding on to the burns over my body. The charred flesh began to heal itself. Through several disgusting snaps and pops, I could see the skin on my arm returning to normal, the darkened flesh returning to its original color. As everything settled back to normal, the woman who covered my mouth let out a sigh of relief, removing her hand from my mouth. She regarded me bluntly. 1 second longer, and it would have had you in its grasp. I blinked several times as the nipping pain faded from my body, eyeing her up and down. From the low light of the tunnel, I could make out tattered brown robes, with her black hair messy yet mostly covered by a shawl to match. As she turned, I could just make out a long dark tunnel, with a dull glow further in. The woman beckoned me to follow her down as we kept on all fours slowly crawling out way down the cold, hard dirt sticking into the soft parts of my hands. A low whisper came from up ahead. Several people murmured to each other in a hushed tone. The dull glow got closer and closer until the tunnel opened up into a room-like structure. The dull glow was a makeshift fire. The timbers in it popped a crack lowly. 2 figures sat huddled close to the fire. They both eyed me worriedly, almost expecting something else to be following us. But the woman was first to speak, calming their silent concerns. "It's gone for now. Lucky enough I managed to grab this one just as the angel was about to make its attack." She turned to face me, a soft smile across her lips. "You can call me Sam," she said matter-of-factly. "Oh, yeah, I'm Jake," I sputtered out, unsure of myself. "Whoa, where am I?" I asked, more of an open question as I peered around the 3 of them. "Well, kid, this is Purgatory. You're dead. Simple as that," one of the men by the fire stated bluntly. "Dead? I trailed off in thought, though I wanted this right. After all, I did swallow those pills with one thing in mind. The man let out a soft chuckle. "Don't worry, it's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it?" He's questioned before carrying on. "1 minute you're alive as alive can be, then poof, you're looking over an endless forest. The name is Doug, by the way." "Yeah, what was that? Surely that can't be an angel. They're not, supposed to kill us. They are supposed to be the good guys, right?" I looked over at Doug, questioning everything. He gazed into the fire. The look on his face gave it away. He was trying to find a way to let me down softly. Finally, he let out a deep sigh, his gaze returning to me as my questions hung in the air. "It's all a lie, kid. All of it. There is no hell or demons. No rainbow bridge taking you the promised lands. All we are to them is fuel. As they drive the sword into you, it burns the last of your body away as your soul is taken to what you would think is heaven. But it's all bullshit. Your soul is sucked into the clouds as the angels grow stronger. And as you can guess, there are all pompous pricks. They only see us as fuel to the fire, as vermin. The weight of his words bore down on me like a ton of bricks. I was breathing heavily as he told me everything. How could you know all this? Surely that can't be right. I'm not even religious, and I know they tell stories about how we all go to eternal peace in the clouds. I sputtered out to the three as they gazed at each other, but their eyes landed on the last man as he came closer to the fire. It was an old man with balding white hair. He was wearing robes that priests usually wear. The old man spoke out. I know because I seen it with my own eyes. I openly welcomed death at the end of my life, drifting in the darkness before I stood in a line. All those people waiting to get into the white gates of heaven. Only then did I truly see past the lies, as it was near my turn to step into what I thought was eternal paradise. I saw it. Those who went in front of me were being slaughtered by the angels, their souls being sent upwards into this swirling vortex of clouds, blue streaks, flowing towards the sun, to the Eternal One, to God. As the priest spoke on, I could only rest my head in my hands. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Is that all we are? Fuel to the fire. The nagging questions rang in the back of my head as the priest continued on. I watched this all, but I wasn't going to commit myself to that fate. I couldn't. The angels could sense it too. They stopped to look at me, hatred behind those eyes. Oh, how they have so much hatred for us. But I looked around me and took a leap of faith. As those angels came for me, I jumped into the darkness and I woke up here. This forest has held me here ever since then. Those we can get to, we try to save. But as you can see, we haven't been able to get too many. The angels are relentless and ruthless. That's enough, Sam called out. Can't you see he has been through enough? Let him get some rest first before you make him lose his sanity in one go. The old man huffed and turned, seeming annoyed to be interrupted like that. He made his way further into the tunnels as I was left with Sam and Doug, Sam resting a hand on my shoulder. Come, sit and rest by the fire. I sat down on the cold floor, resting against the tunnel walls as I gazed into the fire, trying to come to terms with this new reality. Sam took a second to sit beside me, sighing softly as she peered in the direction the old priest wandered off. Don't mind Father Donovan too much. He has had it the worst than any of us, really and truly, to being a man preaching of the eternal love of God for so long, preaching over and over again how the angels are here to shepherd us to salvation. Sam mused for a second before carrying on. I suppose in a twisted sense they do still shepherd us, though in a more horrific way than told in the good book and not in the way you would think. That's when Sam's gaze lifted to meet mine. A more serious expression painted across her face. He cares, Jake. Though he may seem serious and sour all the time, he really does care for everyone that comes here. She took a moment, letting the words sinking in, but I could tell she was internally questioning if she should tell me the next part. Closing her eyes with a soft sigh, she told me. He saved me when I first came here. I was in the same situation as you, being chased down as the angel roared out that I was a heretic. You see, Jake, where I came from, God isn't the God you know. Where I come from, the world is a completely different place. Women are supposed to stay quiet and heed the beckoning of their husband's word. And that's what happened to me. As Sam told me of her story, I could see the fire cast an eerie shadow over her. darkening one half of her face as she told me her story. I decided that I wanted to be different and speak out. Why should we all keep our opinions silent? An opinion can change the world if spoken with enough passion, right? A bit lost in the moment, I let out a soft, yeah, of course. Sam shook her head softly at that. Well, the men I knew in life didn't think so. Most of the time, they just ignored me and told me to be silent. My word wasn't worth much compared to my husband's. But the more they ignored me, the more I pressed on. The more it drove me to keep pushing. It hit a breaking point. I was dragged before a council of elders that told me I didn't value the teachings of our God, that I should be shunned and punished for my blasphemy to the Holy One. She peered up to me, a soft tear running down her face. I was dragged into the street and flogged. Then a crowd of people gathered into a circle around me and I was stoned to death, Jake. I let out a soft gasp, the shock of it all stricken across my face. I knew that other places were strict, that women are oppressed, seen as second-class citizens. But to be shunned and killed for speaking out against things, it's just madness. To go through so much pain in life and to end up here, hunted for nothing more than fuel. It really changes perspectives of my own life. Hearing this all made me really reflect how selfish I was. Sam took a moment, her gaze retuning to the fire. Several soft sniffles echoed out. Slowly, Sam regained herself. That's when Father Donovan brought me here. It took the longest while. I held a lot of hate for everything. Anytime he tried to reason with me, I'd come at him with spite. But he's stubborn. He managed to break down those walls. While Sam started into her explanation, I could see a soft smile return to her lips, seeing her demeanor lift. Over time, he taught me that not everyone will treat me the same, though I was hurt like I was. All it takes is some compassion for what people are going through, and it worked. The hate I held started to fade. I came to the realization of what he meant. This place we are stuck in, what's hunting us is meant to break us down, suck any sense of being away from us. But if we have a purpose, give people a purpose to fight on to keep being them, to bring in hope when all hope is lost. Her gaze flicked over the Doug. He had been watching us in silence, letting Sam get out everything she needed to. She let out a small chuckle. Besides, it helped me to save Doug here, or covert ops. I'm not joking when I say he really didn't need any saving. He knew instantly that the angels were a threat. When the horn sounded and it was safe to roam again, I watched this man almost appear out of nowhere, hidden in plain sight. Doug laughed with her, the mood lifting further as he spoke. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I was a soldier before I came here, Corporal Douglas Cormick. 2nd Battalion, Minesweeper. I served 3 tours in Iraq before you know. Doug motioned onward, his hands waving about, making it comedic approach of himself. I thought to myself that he must have been in some firefight to end up here. But he explained further, his tone becoming serious as he did. Landmine. He paused for a moment. We were out on patrol that day, sweeping through one of those barren fields with the sun beating down on our backs. All it took was one wrong step, and I heard a click and a loud boom. Next thing I knew, I came to in here. Though he didn't seem too overly bothered about the way he died, I could still tell he was missing something or someone. Family? A partner? Kids? I didn't want to press too much, though after he told me his story, it was silent. My eyes darting around the place, I knew it was time to give my story. But it felt awkward. Both of them had some tales to tell. Then there was me, some random 23-year-old who had depression. How could I tell them that? How I basically threw my life away because I went through a rough patch. Doug must have sensed my discomfort, somehow knowing I wasn't ready to share my story. He awkwardly cut into the silence. "I suppose you felt the second rumbled?" he questioned, a forgiving look in his eyes. "Yeah, what was that? I thought the angels were still sneaking about trying to trick us." Doug let out another soft chuckle. "Lucky for us, no. The forest resets itself after the angels leave this place. The horn acts as a signal. I watched it happen one time. The rumbled happens, and it's like the forest comes to life. An unseen force repairing all the trees, lifting them back into place as the fuse back into the stumps. Pushing the dirt back into place again. Perfect every time. You see, time doesn't flow here like it does back when we are living. It's like we are frozen just as we were when we died, stuck in an endless time loop." Then Sam came in shortly after. "As you have seen, the angels don't see us as humans. The irony in it, as we were, after all, created in their image. They us see of sport when a new person lands here. It's almost like a signal to the angels. They give you a heads up that they have arrived with that breeze you first feel. But anyone who is even remotely religious will flock straight to them, the almighty angels that God sends down to help those in need. A sick, twisted joke, you ask me?" Sam let out a mocking sigh, throwing her hands up in frustration as she spoke. "Once they do get you, they will cut you down without a second notice, praising the Almighty as they do. Some of the angels like to toy about with you, let you run as they pick you off, slowly draining all the fight you have left. Then you have the ones that just go straight for the kill, not seeing you worth the time or the hassle. But that's not the half of it. When they stab the sword into, you get engulfed by the flames, almost as they are purging your soul from your body, and this massive beam of light comes down to take your soul up to the clouds above." Sam stopped, clearly affected about the image. I had no idea how long they had been here, how many people they had seen this happen to. Bringing her knees to her chest, taking a leftover stick from the pile of firewood they had left, eyeing it softly. It's a cruel joke, really. Any damage they inflict on us heals when they leave. They must not see any joy chasing down already injured prey. She said this while staring into the fire, poking softly at some embers with the stick she had picked up. Her eyes said it all. The pain she felt after the people they try to save are cut down and toyed with. Though the silence didn't last for long, as we sat there resting. That's when we all heard it. The soft whistle of air rushing down into the tunnel. I could feel a ringing in my ears as it did. Terror filling me once more, a soft whisper leaving my lips. Oh no, they are back. Sam and Doug looked at each other as they seemed to move like a well-oiled machine. "You take the backwards entrance. I'll head up forward. Remember, Sam, if we can't get them without risking ourselves, we leave them. We can't. And I repeat, we can't save them all," Doug echoed out as he moved deeper into the caves. Sam waited for a moment. The look on her face was somber, Doug's warning cutting into her deeply. She blinked a few times as she made for the tunnel that she first led me down, motioning me to follow her. We crawled towards the entrance. Cold determination rested heavily in the air. As rays of light creeped through the makeshift door to the tunnels, the booming voice ringing out once more, though more muffled, we both understood what it had said. Pathetic sinner, worthless wretch. We both knew the angel had found whoever was unlucky to land themselves here. Sam rested her hand against the door as he looked at me, and with her free hand she made two motions. The first was a finger to her lips. That one was obvious. The other was her motioning me to keep low. With a soft push, she lifted the door up to just about eye level as we peered out. The forest just as we had left it. But we could hear it. A faint cry getting closer and closer as a young woman came into view. Her movements sluggish as she collapsed to the floor, blood pooling beneath her. As we watched, I could feel my pulse quickening, my heart beating against my chest. "Aren't we going to go get her?" I whispered frantically. Sam shot me an intense look. "Not yet, we don't know where the angel is." Her tone was serious as she continued to scan our surroundings. The weight was crushing. Seeing the young woman's chest slowly rise and fall, I couldn't take it. I had to help her. I had to. Against my better judgment, I pushed past Sam and into the open forest. I heard Sam call to me in fear, her fingers lightly brushing past my jacket as she tried to stop my advance. I ran to the woman, my legs clumsily leading me towards her, but that's when I heard the light whooshing sound. I hadn't even made it halfway when the angel landed before her, its golden gaze fixed to the woman. I think she knew what was coming for her. As I watched the angel loom over her, I stood frozen in fear before I saw it. A weakened hand stretched outwards, clawing into the hardened dirt as the woman attempted to pull herself away. To me, this all seemed in slow motion, my hands coming up to my mouth as I watched on. A small trail of blood was left behind the woman as she maybe got 3 feet away from the angel. I saw the flaming sword lift up as the angel raised his blade, proclaiming loudly, "Look unto me, O highest one. Another sinner comes to you. I rejoice to know the claimed fuel, your eternal being." As the angel finished, he swung his blade down harshly, impaling the woman in the back as she screamed out in pain, her upper body arching upwards as it reacted with the force of the blow. The flames of the sword seemed to meld to her body as her flesh was engulfed in eternal flames. A beam of light boomed through the trees. The angel stood up and extended his arms outwards, seeming to bask in the light. As I watched the ordeal, I noticed a blue orb coming from the woman's burning husk, being whisked upwards into the brilliant light. Not long after it did, the light left, another boom signaling its departure. The angel reached down to collect its weapon, the flames dancing across the blade as it took a deep breath. As if it had sensed me watching it, the angel's head suddenly snapped to meet my gaze, the look of hatred burning behind those eyes. I took several breaths of terror as it looked at me, completely frozen in place. My survival instinct telling me to run, to move, to get away from this thing. The angel seems to pose itself in my direction. The flaming blade hugged close to its side as it got ready to lunge at me. That's when it happened. The angel came at me, blade ready to strike. Its speed was terrifying all in itself. I felt 2 hands push me harshly from behind as I tumbled to the side, the air speeding past me as I fell. That's when I heard it, the sickening sound of a hard object being forced through skin, a terrible ripping sound, the angel's assault kicking up dust in its wake. As the dust settled, I let out a large gasp. No, please, no. The blade had met its mark, only it wasn't me that it hit. It was Sam. She had pushed me out of the way at the last second. I don't know if she had seen the angel coming or willingly sacrificed herself for me. I didn't get the chance to ask. Sam let out several pain grunts as the blade was embedded in her stomach, the flames engulfing her entirely. The beam of light coming down, crashing through the trees. I had to hold a hand up, being this close to the light. It was blinding. As Sam's soul was pulled upwards, I could have sworn I could hear the faint, echoing cries from it. As the beam retreated once more, the angel pulled his blade back to its side as it turned to face me. On this glorious day, I offer 3 wretched sinners up to the Almighty. It took one step towards me, the step almost shaking the entirety of my being. There was softing ringing began in my head, the angel's movement getting slower and slower as it stood before me. Blink. I could feel myself drifting in the endless void once more, being pulled somewhere. Internally, I began to wonder to myself, did the angel get me? Was I going to be fuel? I didn't have to wait long for my answer. In the distance, I could hear muffled talking as people worked frantically. As it came closer and closer, I could finally make out what they were saying. "I have a heartbeat! Quick, keep working on him!" Blink. I woke violently, my head ringing harshly as I started wrenching. A mixture of black water and bile flowed from my mouth as it coated the bed and the people in front of me. The last bit of contents leaving my stomach as the doctors worked all around me. What was this? Where am I? Over the next few days, I learned that when I had drifted into the void, my body had reacted to the large intake of pills and went into a seizure, making quite the racket through the paper-thin walls. My next-door neighbour had came to see what the commotion was, ringing an ambulance when she seen me frothing at the mouth. Thank God for noisy neighbours. Huh? The doctors kept around the clock checks on me. Getting placed on suicide watch was a pain. Get this, I was clinically dead for 20 minutes. I guess Doug was right when he said time didn't move right. Doug, I wonder if he's still in there trying to keep away from the angels. I wonder if he managed to save any more people. For 3 weeks I was kept in the hospital, committed to the mental health ward for observation. They are really not messing about in those rooms. Everything put in place so people couldn't hurt themselves. Mostly everything is slanted and smooth. Water taps, places to hang your clothes. Hell, even the mirrors are made from a reflective plastic. A physiatrist was assigned to me. It's seen her 3 times a week. I did try and explain myself to her, tell her and the doctors what was really put there. But who's going to believe the suicidal 23-year-old? The physiatrist said the same thing over and over again. Well, Jake, I know you are convinced on what you saw, how these angels are truly evil, and we are nothing but fuel to this higher purpose. But your body went through a great amount of stress. The big influx of pills would have altered your mental state. I knew where she was going, that this was all in my head, and none of this never happened. For a while, I almost believed her too. But no, I refused to believe that it was all in my head. That place was too real. The pain and terror was too real. It would be an insult to Sam, Doug, and Father Donovan. In fact, to all those that have been sacrificed there. So I shut up and agreed with the doctors, let them believe I was ready to go back into society. Nothing like a run-in with divine beings hunting you down, hell-bent on engulfing you with internal flames. Really does help cure depression and give you a new lease on life. But that's why I'm here now, writing to you all. Maybe one of you will believe me. Maybe you will heed my warning when I tell you this. Purgatory is really the hunting ground for angels. Thanks for joining our spooky story time. Bloody subscribe and keep the nightmares coming. Good night.